Hey guys, welcome to this video. I did a stream this morning, don't forget to check it out. I also had an edit to pick on the front page as well. Don't forget to get my free training underneath. I'm opening a trading room in January privately. So let's get on with the euro dollar. I'm going to make this one slightly extended as a video because of course we have the very important interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve expected to stay the same. This afternoon we did have a slight beat on PPI for food and energy year on year in November, month on month on November as well. So we had a previous of 2.4, consensus of 2.3, and a beat, I believe it's something like 2.2. So that has moved slightly markets. You can see you had a little bit, and I'll zoom in slightly by going lower time frames, bit of a burst to the upside, and you've lost value again. So key rejection there, a bit like you had yesterday with your CPI, and you also had a fall here and here. So any pushes to the upside around this contentious sort of area, if you like, causing a down move. So you don't have very sharp upside bias just yet, okay? And if you go to your high time frames, I sort of covered this a little bit this morning, but you're very tentatively moving to the upside, okay? It doesn't look extremely promising, because every time you push up, you're getting very early pushes back, and it comes in line with former levels of resistance higher up. You can see over here, you've gone off from this one initially over with this candle wick, and then again just now with that candle wick. So it's not incredibly forceful as a movement up. Now, because of that, you may consider being lightly long at the moment. If you're slightly less risk averse, or you're more involved in markets, or you're perhaps a bit more confident for any reason, you might consider a drop something on your 15-minute back to early areas of support like this. That may be ideal for you. You've got an amalgamation of moving averages forming here as well, 200 dragging slightly under. But in general, pushes up to this point have been very weak. So my risk averse bias generally is going to take you lower. Now, I'm going to identify that level. I'm not saying to short it at the moment. I don't believe that's a good idea right now. I think you're going to be shorting into minor support, okay, which you would expect to cause a sort of intraday bump within the next 12 hours or something like that. It depends what happens with the news, of course. But the reason why I'll just, before I draw that, is mention the news, is because, of course, you have got you've got the Fed, like I said, giving interest rate projections, comments around the interest rate, and the general interest rate overall. Now, of course, interest rates literally are the key to currency movement, because if you've got a higher rate, generally people want to save their money. If you then get a lowering rate or a low rate, people stop saving their money because they're not going to get a good return. And often within that, the lower rate comes a boost in confidence to the global economy, or that economy where you're looking. Okay, there are instances where that's not the case. Okay, and you've got disinflation, for example, and various other factors. But generally speaking, broadly speaking, and for example, with the Fed, you're seeing an increased boost in sentiment to US indexes. That's why they're rising so high. And you're seeing a decreased sentiment for the US dollar, which is causing these rises and falls. Okay, so your euro pair, for example, okay, has pulled down. Initially, you had improved inflation. Then you had further comments from the Fed, which pulled it down. So generally speaking, like I said, the clearest way to say this is, and in the most basic economics, you don't really have to be a genius. You don't have to study economics particularly to understand this. But if you start to get higher rates, people want to save their money, okay? And it's often because you've got growing inflation, which is a worry for stock markets. Once the rates come down, okay, you may have central bank bodies saying things like, well, perhaps there's improvement. Okay, things don't cost as much. People are going to go back and spend their money. Company profits come up. People stop investing in currencies and they invest in the stock market instead. Now, the case with the ECB, the European Central Bank, is causing a slight differentiation compared to everything else. But generally, if you look at the pound dollar, for example, it looks quite similar. So the number one thing as well here in big letters is this: do not preempt news. Now, people ask me very frequently, do you want to do this pre-news? Do you want to do that pre-news? What if this? What if that? you can never really know exactly what the news is going to do in that moment. There are many times it will be the case where you might buy something, it goes against you because of the news, or you buy something, it goes with you because of the news. Generally, when I'm entering, I'm not interested in what way the news is going to take the markets right now, because I don't know what they're going to say. They could say something great, they could say something bad. The caveat to not being in a big building in the city is that you will never know those comments immediately. You will never know the exact reaction that's going to occur. So never buy the euro before the news because you think it's going to go up. Never sell the euro before the news because you think it's going to go down. Just use the news as a means of volatility, as a mechanism, a driving vehicle to move your position. That is the vehicle for you making money. So I, for that reason, have long entries planned lower because I know there is reasonable support and reasonable rejection and therefore long side bias. The core of my trading plans is exactly that, as well as many other things. Of course, like I said, you can get my free training under the video. But generally speaking, if it becomes the case that, and I don't know what the news is going to do, okay, but if it becomes the case that it comes down here, that's a valid price for me. And that's a valid price for many other traders. They know this is an area where they're very much going to get feasible longs, where it's going to provide them long side value off the back of a considerable fall. Because after considerable falls, you get considerable rises on all time frames. If it's a fall like it was previously, you then get a big retracement to the upside. If you're looking lower time frames, then the same thing will occur. Okay, you had a retracement up to about 70.7 perhaps as a fib. So any fall here, and I'm going to get long. I'm not going to short it. I don't know if it's going to get pulled there. Okay, so I'm not going to short into support because if you go on your lower time frames, it's exactly what this is. Very early minor support. You bounced off it many times. Okay, so it could get in the way. So I'm not going to sell into that. And I'm just going to wait for my risk averse entry. If I don't get the entry, that's fine. I'm trading many other assets. It doesn't bother me. So if we get there, then I'll get long. If it goes the other way and we get up here, then I would consider shorting in line again with key levels of price rejection. But it is absolutely the case. I have no idea what the news is going to do. I don't know where it's going to take markets. We all know what it's likely they'll say. Okay, we're going to keep the Fed rates the same. Things are tentatively looking better. Like comments on inflation yesterday, I don't see why we can't keep improving. There's all kinds of rhetoric that will probably come, but it's never a certification. It's never a guarantee that the market's going to do anything you want it to. Okay, so any higher moves, and I prefer it short. Any further moves down, and I'd like to look long. And anything beyond that, I'm scaling in further. I'm looking for valuable deals. Areas of the market where it's sustainable for me to buy long term or sell long term. And if I continually take good deals at what is called market value, then I can make money. And people in every business, every walk of trading anything, that's all they do. So I hope that helps. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, get my free training underneath. I'll see you in the next one. And maybe consider dropping your size slightly if you're worried about what the news will do. I understand that. Nobody knows what it will do, but just trade lightly, trade safely. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See you there, guys.